Hello, welcome to another tutorial. In this video, we'll be going over how to set up a Modbus TCP connection where your AUBO Cobot is the server. We have previously made another video where the AUBO Cobot was a client, so feel free to check that out. Now the first step is to establish the connection. So you will be using an Ethernet cable which connects from the robot's control box to your controller. So in this case, I'm just using my local computer as the controller, so I've connected an Ethernet cable between my computer and the control box. Once you have the Ethernet connected, next you can go into extensions and your slave config, and here you're going to make sure your slave status is on. So this button needs to be green. If this button is not green and it's not enabled, you're going to want to click this button, which will say start slave, and then once you start it, you will just enable it. And then you're going to need to restart your AUBO PE, and then once you restart it, your system will be configured for your robot to be the server. So now, for me, I already have it on, so I can directly just go ahead into device config. So inside device config, this is where I configure my connection. So I give it a name, select TCP. This is the slave ID. Let's just say 1 for now. Response time, I'm going to say 1,000 milliseconds. IP address, this is the key difference between setting up a server versus the client. When you set up a server, you want to use your robot's preset IP address here. So by using 127.0.0.1, you're directly mapping to your robot's preset IP address. Compared to the client where you entered your local computer or your controller's IP address, here you want the slave to be your robot itself, so you just want to enter this 127.0.0.1 mapping to the robot's IP address. And for port, same thing. You're going to just write 502, which is the default. Click add. Next, you can go into IO config, and you can basically add a different IO names with many different types. So as you can see here, there's digital input, output, register input, output, and a variety of other different options here. And as you can see, some of them you can read and write, but some of them you can only read. So for this example, in this demo, let's just go with the register output. We can both read and write. So Modbus name, TCP server. Let's give it a name, reg out. And address, we'll see where this is used, but let's just say 0 for now. Click add. Okay, now you have added this. You can monitor its state, and because it's an output, we can actually write to this as well. So let's take a look at how we do this. So before we do anything, let's make sure the connection is good between our controller, which is my computer, and the control box. So go into your command prompt, and you can just go ahead and ping 192.168.181.70, because that is the IP address of my AUBO PE. So depending on what yours is, you can type in a different IP address here. And again, to reiterate, you can do this by going to settings, system, network, and clicking if config. And as you can see here, 192.168.181.170. And as you can see here, the connection is good. The packets were sent through without any loss. So we can continue on. So the software that we're going to be using is called Modbus PE. So first, we're going to click connection, click connect. You're going to go into select Modbus TCP IP. And here, remote Modbus server, IP address. This is going to be the IP address of your AUBO PE, which you again you find through settings, network, if config. So this is going to be this value right here. So type that in, and server port 502, and then the address type is IPv4. Click OK. There we go. Next, you're going to want to click setup, read write definition. So here, because we set it as a register output, we want to match that too. So we want to say, we want to read holding registers. Okay, and we're basically having 10 rows. There we go. So as you can see here, we have 10 rows. So the reason these are 2 is because I've used this before, so I've set some values in here. But when you first begin, it should just be all zeros. So to demonstrate, let's go ahead and go into IO control, reg out. Let's go ahead and set this value to 10. And as you can see here, at address 0, this address 0 corresponds to the configuration we set here. So this address should correspond to here. So if I set this address to like 1 or 2 or whatever numbers, that corresponding address value will change. Okay, so as you can see here, I set reg out to 10 through IO control, and on my Modbus poll software, I can see it has changed. Now, because this should be both read and write, so I should be able to write back. So let's change this value to, let's say 3, send. Now, if we go into IO state, we can see that reg out now has been changed to a value of 3. And there you go. That's how you set up a Modbus TCP connection between your robot and a controller, where your robot is the server.